Hello, how's everyone today? I hope everyone's doing fine. I am doing good, and I'm here to talk a little bit about gardening. It came to my attention today that uh, some of the things you do for gardening, um, I wonder if you know that one of the most important things you can do in your garden is watering. Watering is not only just to give your plant, uh, moisture, but it also helps with your plants getting that very important food because as you know that plant eat food that is in a liquid form, and if you fertilize or if you're using compost on the top surface and you pour through, the compost is going to make its way down to the root zone. The root zone in turn will take in the nutrients. Without that, you will not have adequate feeding as well as uh, be able to get moisture to your plants. It's very important. And a lot of people actually overwater, underwater, and it's a couple things you can do to get it right, so that you will know that you're doing the correct thing to make your plants flourish and produce more. Because your plants can produce more if you do certain things in the garden. There are professionals and there are farmers uh, that can show you certain things when it comes to gardening that can help you produce more food, so to speak. Um, it is something you learn. I have one more item also I wanted to point out that I'm going to go back to using rainwater this year because rainwater is just simply a better deal. And you also can't beat the fact that it's free for right now. They're not charging you for water or rainwater. So that being said, that's gonna. I have to get a what they call a diversion valve for my rain barrels in order to get that back in working order. Hello, how you doing, Food Fathers Permaculture? Good to see you. Good to see you. Um, I missed one of your programs last night, and I just didn't get a chance to see it. I went and I said, oh, it just he just went off an hour ago. But I want to tell you something. I went back to some stores I go to, which some of you know I go to Home Depot and Lowe's and also Walmart. None of these stores are up and really pumping out their garden things yet. But I want to tell you something. The the most important thing I saw today is that they are so in a hurry, or somehow they got set behind, that if you buy uh, those box plants, that what they call them, um, kiwi, you got the blackberries and raspberries, that sort of thing. They don't even have. If you look at them and what they did in the store is they brought the bag up, twisted, put a twist tie on it, and called it a day. And so you're paying $11, and that's not even a stem. I kid you not. There's not even a stem sticking up through the box. Nothing. Zero. And I thought, oh my goodness, how could I said, how could this happen here? This cannot this cannot be a product that someone's trying to sell. But in turn, they were trying to sell it. Um, and I bought one. Well, I showed you this before. I bought one here. At first, it had no green on it, and then it's got that little bit of green. Now look at the little tiny bit of green there, and I think there's some inside the box. Is it? There it is, right there. None of this was there when I purchased it. None of this was there when I purchased it. And what happened was I gave it a little bit of half strength fish emulsion, and this came up. I mean, how can they do this? But they did it. Now this will go outside pretty soon. This will go out. and it will be um, planted in a sunny location. I will add compost to it when it goes in the ground. I will add compost around it. I will also add mulch around it. Um, and there's a tiny bit of all-purpose organic food. I have it on hand. That's the only reason why I'm using it. I don't have to use it. I can let the compost do the complete job. And this right here, harvest early summer and fall, self-pollinating. And I'm gonna tell you something. This is a good deal when you run into self-pollinating um, kiwi, because I've heard some of the tragic stories that people would buy when they first started learning about kiwi plants. They were buying a male and a female, and they were planting it right next to the house, and they would go crazy after they get older and rip up pieces of uh, uh, concrete, wrap around thing, and it was big trunks. These vines would create at a certain point where they were some of the most powerful vines you ever want to run your eyes across. And so people learned, some have learned, I'll put it that way, that you just can't plant these things anywhere if you don't understand. Yeah, they're little and cute when you get them in a pot. This one here is not like that. It will get big and bushy, but it will not turn into one of those type because it's not that variety. They got the really big kind that you can grow, like the ones at the grocery store. Those grow huge vines, thick like trees. That's the ones I was getting ready to get years ago. I'm glad when I did put them in the ground that the cats ripped them up. And cats have a craving to tear these things up. Why? I have no idea. But they always want to dig them up, break them up. And when I looked out of my surveillance cameras, I saw that the cats wallow on the plant back and forth, like they're in heat or something. I saw that happen 3 times since I've tried to put these in the ground. I had to put a some chicken wire around it at one point to stop the cats from digging it up and taking it off. They would actually dig the plant up, and at one point, a cat took the the plant with him wherever he went at. He took it with him, and I was wondering why would a cat be that fascinated by a kiwi plant? I looked it up, and it said that cats have an attraction to it, something similar to something called catnip. I think is what they call it. Oh, okay. Now I just saw what you just wrote here. Food follows permacause. You say yes, planted in May. Yeah, I can wait for that. It's a cold hardy plant, but I don't want to do anything to stun it or anything like that. Thanks for that information. Um, get a dog. Yeah, a dog will keep them out of the yard. A dog will keep them out of the yard. But once the plant gets up and gets strong enough that the cats can't damage it. But yeah, they will tear this thing up. Why? I have seen it. I have seen it. Couldn't believe it. What? What's hello, hello, everything. Well, we're just talking about some of the plants I plan on putting in the ground. Now, let me tell you something. I went in my yard. I bought about 15 years ago. I bought a blackberry, and it was up on a shelf. They was getting ready to trash it, and what happened was when they was going to trash it, I went up to him. I said, "Listen, what are you doing with these?" He said, "These are not even in the system anymore." He said, give me 270 for it." I don't know what he could have gave me the plant. The plant was dried up, sitting on a shelf, out of the system and everything. But because he was who he was, he said, "I'm gonna sell this guy this. I'm not giving him this plant." I took it home, gave it some water, put it in a hole with some compost made from leaves, put compost around it. Let me tell you something. Within a few weeks, that plant was so strong that is no way you could look at that and see it was the same plant. There's no way you could say it was the same plant. It grew over 16 feet long in time. And I said, wait a minute, I don't want it to do that. I can't stake this. It's 16 feet long. I said, well, what am I going to do? And I got some information. And what some people do with blackberries is they'll cut them off at about 4 to 4.5 feet, and they will allow them to bush out where they can in turn get more berries. And I thought that was a good idea to just cut them off and let them grow bushy. And I got to tell you, blackberries, uh, that was 15 years ago. I still had that same plant. It went from one point in the yard to another point to another point, which was when it would grow. I thought it was fascinating that they'll grow up, bend over, touch the ground, and then they would root. The tip would root, and I would come along, pull it up, and move it to wherever I want to move it to. And I thought that was interesting. I gave some to my neighbors and that sort of thing, but it died when I gave it to two of my neighbors. But one neighbor, it grew better on his property than it did on my property. And it's because he planted it next to, and this is very interesting. You can find it interesting. I guarantee you. He planted it next to a tree that was cut down probably 30 years ago. And it was a huge tree about 3 feet across. And it was rotten all the way through. And the plant grew like the guy was fertilizing it. And he just put it there and left it. And it was big and thick, the vine, and it grew 20 feet across, stuck its vine in the ground, and it was moving out of the spot where he put it, and it was creating all these vines that were running all over his yard. And I told him, I said, listen, I said, you better watch that vine because it'll take over. I said, that vine will take over your property. I said, and it's strong. I said, just pay attention to it. I said, if I were you, I would cut it off at about 4.5 feet and get it to grow bushes. And when it grows a beautiful bush, I say you're going to get more berries, and you're going to be able to contain it somewhat. Of course, he grew it his way, and then I gave him also a raspberry, and the raspberry took off. Same deal. And he said, we planted the raspberry here, and it moved 10 feet away from where I planted it. I said, yeah, raspberries will do that. Um, and you can actually buy one raspberry plant. And Food Farmers Permaculture, you already know this. You can buy one plant, take care of it, and before you know it, you'll have tons of raspberry plants growing on your property with just one single plant. Raspberries move underground, and they move uh, into different locations through their root system. And when I first grew them, I remember thinking these are not that sweet. They're not that sweet. The following year, as they grew, they got sweet. So raspberries are my favorite. Blackberries are my favorite. Um, and what else? I grew grapes. I like grapes that you grow at home. But I was always wondering why grapes I grow. I say I sell my raspberry canes for $5. I like that idea. See, I had that idea today when I was out there trimming my trees back. I cut uh, I cut some pieces off of my grapevines, and I said, I know what kind of grapevine this is. This is a flame grape, seedless. I said, I'm gonna do like I did before, and I know I can sell them now because see what's happening now is people have a different attitude for the most part about growing food. They no longer, some people were stuck up about it. I'm not growing any food. I don't want to grow any food. It's true. I'm not going out in the yard. There's bugs in the yard. There's spiders in the yard. Now they're saying grapes are $8 and $9 a bag. I can grow my own. I have a yard. They're looking at it from that perspective now. Um, this kiwi that I have here, very easy to root once you get it started. To get canes from it and grow them. You're absolutely right about that. Raspberries, same thing. Um, but I tried something with raspberries one time. I took the cuttings. I still don't today don't know what I did wrong. I took the cuttings, I placed them in soil, and every last one of them died. And I said, wonder what's going on. Why is this happening? But they all died. Uh, I don't know what it could have been because it was winter when I did this. But I figured I'd start them indoors, and they didn't make it. So I'm not, I still can try it again. Yeah, but food is different now, and you can. They had a site that's called, it's still around, I guess, called Craigslist. Um, I sold some things through Craigslist, like a tiller. I had to get rid of that tiller. That tiller was nice, but I took care of it. I kept the oil change in it, and I sold it because I said I'm not gonna keep tilling my soil up. I said this thing cost me brand new. It was back during that time. It's a lot more than that now, but it was 300 and some dollars, and I bought it on sale. A Craftsman, 5.5 horsepower, front front tilling, and what happened was I kept tilling each year, and the soil was pretty. And when I kept tilling, I kept saying, wait a minute, something is wrong here. The soil is soft, then the rain would hit the soil, and then the soil would turn into like cement. It was like cracks all in it. And I said, wait a minute, this tilling's supposed to be good for soil. Well, that's what I was taught. And I find from my from my perspective, I didn't like that tilling. It got rid of the weeds for a while, but the weeds still came back, and it came back more than they were. You know, they came back more. So now I learned that don't dig in your soil like that. Don't tear up the homes of the life in the soil. Just allow yourself to take care of the soil. Good night. Morning, God. Okay, you all right now. You take care. All right, yeah, he's headed on. Um, but make sure that you take care of the soil. That's the most important thing you can do when you're gardening, and it is this: grow soil. Grow the soil is the best thing to focus on. Making the soil better each year, and you will get a better deal. I'm using lots of wood chips, but what I'm using is food fiber permaculture. And had a conversation in the past, and that is that allow it to sit and age. I had some that I had delivered, and I let it age. He suggested about a year, and I let it age a year. And I said, yeah, let it age because um, it turned into this black, pretty uh, compost. And all I did was where they poured it at, I left it. And when I left it there, it did great. Um, and I said, this is a better deal. I'm not going to be out there turning uh, 800-900 pound pile of wood chips. It might weigh actually more than that, but I'm not going to be out there turning that. I'm not going to do that. That's not my job. I let nature do it. I set it there. The worms come up through it. The insects will crawl through it. Uh, the uh, the organisms will crawl all through it, and eventually it will break down, just like in the forest. I don't need to move it. I don't need to till it. I'm not in a hurry for it. So that's what I do, and it's some pretty stuff. And when I try to buy, that is a guy on here. Is a gardener. Him and his wife, I think they garden together, and he advertises for Black Cow. I used to I used to use Black Cow. I stopped using it when I contacted the company. And number one, you can't get nobody on the phone. And when you do get a person on the phone, they can't answer certain questions like where uh, the cows that are being used for this, where you're getting their feces, what are they eating? Are they being treated with certain kind of medications? And no one can answer those questions for you, or they won't answer them. So I just stopped using it. I just stopped. I said, wait a minute, they're not telling me what's in it. They just tell me, that well, we make it out of wood chips and we make it out of this and then we got it. But when I ask them about the cattle that are being used to produce that product, and can I get that in writing? Nobody wants to talk. So I left it alone, and I have that. I can do that. I left it alone. And then they got the cheaper bags. I think it's the brands that Lowe's sell, and I think it's sold at Home Depot as well. It's a lower cost um, bags of compost, and you don't know what's in it. You don't know what's in it. It got a lot of stuff you can read on the bag, but it will not say certain things. And sometimes people put some medieval stuff in that compost to make a bulk. Now, I'll give you an example. When you cut your grass and you cut your weeds and all that stuff, and you put it out by the area where they pick up the recycling for yards. Let's say Ron next door uses chemicals in his care for his grass. You don't want to put that on your crops. And I know that happens because they grab all of that grass up. That's why I never ask my neighbors uh, for their grass clippings unless I absolutely know that neighbor and I know he or she does not use um, any kind of chemicals. I will not use it. And that's the deal. I only use for my yard because I know I'm not spraying anything on my grass, nothing. I go through with a lawnmower with a bag on it. And that's the reason why I bought the lawnmower with a bag on it to collect grass clippings at times. And I can use those as mulch, as fertilizer. Uh, it also helps to regulate the temperature of the soil. That's what I do. You don't have to spend a lot of money in order to have an outstanding garden. You don't have to. You can if you want to. If you want designer bags of fertilizer, designer bags of mulch, you can actually do that. Or you can call a tree company, and if you have the room for it, and say, if you're ever in my area, call me first. I'd like to have a load of tree uh, chips dumped on my property. And they'll say, sure, because it costs them money to dump it at other places. So if they could dump it on your property for free, guess what? That's where they're gonna try to head there first. But once they start coming there, you want to let them know that to always contact you first before they dump, because they'll be in the area and they'll have you on the list as a person receiving wood chips. You don't need to come home and find they dumped in your yard and you weren't there, and maybe there's some property damage, or maybe there's a situation where they dumped it in the wrong location, because that's an awful lot of wood chips, awful lot of wood chips. And that's the way that rolls. I love gardening. It's important to me. I care about it. It helps keeps me balanced. I never come in and I'm angry from leaving the garden. I'm never. And when I grow things, the biggest problem I have is giving away or finding people that could use some of the food. So I wound up giving it to people. And so I'm gonna do the same thing this year too. What zone are you in? I am in zone 7B. It's a short season zone here in Maryland. And I gotta tell you, I loaded my property up with good luck. Thank you. Thank you so much. And good luck to you as well. I have a feeling you're a gardener as well. Um, but I put in trees, fine plants that produce fruit, because I'm tired. All right, peace. All right now. Uh, and what happened is, if you think about it, uh, to grow the right, when you grow food, uh, I feel okay. Let me just say this: the first time I tasted a peach from my property, and I bit into it, and the sweetness was like pow, and it was so sweet, and the juice, I didn't know peaches had juice that ran down my arm, and because the ones I buy from the grocery store, that you know, they're just green and they don't, and some of the varieties that they give you at the store are not as sweet as what you can get and grow. So okay, so let's say that. But the apples that I ate from the garden, perfect, flawless, and I liked it. What was it? Two little hearts went up there. I don't know who did that, but it's all right. It's all right. And what happened was the apple was so sweet, crunchy. I said, "This is what I've been missing all these years," because I've been buying them from the grocery stores, and I've been buying them from other farmers that I purchased them, and they're using man-made fertilizers. Uh, and when I eat an apple from that style of growing, it's a difference. It's a difference. I wash my grapes, I bring them in the house, and I eat my meal, and I have my grapes in the refrigerator chilling. And when I eat them, they like absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And that makes me happy. Well, I guess that's it for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. And you'll see me again if you subscribe to me. When I pop on, you'll see it. You say, oh, that's him. Let me get some more information, or let me just have a general conversation with him in reference to um, how we can improve our garden and save costs. The biggest thing I'm mostly uh, uh, interested in when it comes to gardening is, as I said before, growing soil. Growing soil. It's more important to me than anything. Growing soil. And the other thing is growing your garden and saving money, because you don't have to spend money to grow a great uh, 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 garden or crops. If you saw how I plant things, um, you would be surprised, because you can look at my garden and you can't even see where I grew things. I don't grow in straight lines. I don't grow in straight in boxes where everything's a neat row and everything like that. I don't grow like that. I grow in groups where if you looked at my garden and you didn't know what you were looking for, you would you would go by it. You would think, oh, that's what is that? But now my trees, uh, you can't hide those. If you see a tree full of pears, You can see that they be on the trees. Big Bartlett pears, green with just a tint of yellow, and indicating that now, oh, somebody came through with a question there. Was that the first question today? Yeah, I believe so. The only seed I started this year so far are my ginger. Um, I went to a store called, well, I call it a Korean store, and they sell all kind of things there. But I went there and I purchased a lot of ginger. This is probably the most ginger I've ever purchased at one time. And they had all this ginger there, and it looked some of it looked pretty pathetic. It's been there a while. You can see that, and I'm hoping that a lot of it. What I did to the ginger is I brought it in. I looked at it. Some of them were wrinkles. Some of them had slight wrinkles in it. Still firm. I put them in water overnight. I try to get at least 8 hours of water soaking. And once I did that, um, the ginger was taken out, put in some potting soil, and watered with fish emulsion, and just left in a room in a dark room so that it can get started. Now, once it gets started and the weather permits and it starts getting warmer, I'll take them out and put them in their final pot because I have some really big pots that I want to put them in so they can go ahead and produce me some ginger. And ginger is in my opinion, it's one of the easiest plants to grow. Don't bury them too deep, maybe 2, 3 inches deep. And well, no, not two, but 3, 4 inches deep. Don't put it all the way under the soil. It'll exhaust itself trying to get to the surface. But at any rate, ginger is expensive, and that's why I went ahead and said grow some ginger. Peace and blessings from Zone 8B. My ginger always rot out over winter. Oh, okay. Let me ask you something. Where's the ginger at when it's rotting? Are you leaving it outside? Because I don't leave mine outside. It comes in the house. I put a bunch of what I call it seed ginger, and I put it in a 5 gallon bucket with potting soil and keep it slightly damp in a dark location. That's how I do my ginger. My ginger always rot out over watering. Oh, that's what you put there, not winter. You see, oh yeah, my eyes are getting bad, folks. I'm getting older. Let's see. Watering. I think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Just damn. Don't wet them. Don't wet ginger. Ginger don't like to sit drowning in water. It don't like it. Just nice and amount of water where it's just damp to the touch, not wet. And ginger will turn around and start sending out its roots and everything. And when the weather warms up, it'll try to come up on its own while it's in a bucket waiting to be planted out. Let's see. Outside. Yeah, I don't leave mine outside. Once it starts getting cold and the ginger's going to die back, it's going to start turning brown. I dig up my ginger. I take some of my pieces and I keep as seed ginger for next year. That I'm going to eat gets washed and the long roots removed, and I use those. But the other ones go indoors in a 5 gallon bucket with soil, and keep it damp, like I said, in a dark location. And they'll last you all the way to next season. I've done that for the longest time. I used to buy when I first bought ginger and tried it. Uh, like I said, it's expensive. I wanted to see how much could I grow from $1.25 worth. It's about one piece was that big, one piece was this big, and I grew from that pounds of ginger. From that little bit of ginger, I grew pounds of ginger. I had to weigh it with scales and stuff to see because I couldn't even believe how much. And the great thing about it is you can use compost. If you have any success with growing. Oh, please. Okra easy to grow. I know what you're saying. Yeah. Growing okra and round help my friend. Yeah, yeah. Okra is okay. Let me just say this about okra. Just don't put it out when it's cold. Okra loves heat. Okra loves heat. Um, yeah. This year I will be growing two kinds of okra, which one is burgundy. You got to try burgundy. Burgundy produces a lot of okra, and there's other varieties too that produce heavily. Um, and my favorite, which is just easy to get a hold of, is called spineless. Oh wow, that's a good question. That does well with heat. I know okra does, and eggplant loves heat. There's just so many that you can. But if I were you, I would just Google it. Plants that, no, vegetables that do well in heat, because you'll get a whole list of information that and you'll find something that you like. Don't grow nothing that you don't like to eat yourself. Just always say no. I know what I want to eat, and that's how you do it. I love burgundy and uh, yeah, yeah, Clemson. And I'm gonna tell you something. Yeah, you got a good list there. That's why I would do it. Let's see. What other players as well in high heat? Okay, yeah. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you like this. And don't forget to mulch around these plants with grass clippings. Please try that this year, folks. Mulch around your plants with grass clippings. You will see more of a turnover this year. You will get much success from mulching. Grass clippings, wood chips, straw. You will grow more when you keep the ground with a little bit of moisture there, and you keep that that definitely keep that mulch there, and it will help your plant to be fed. See, watermelons and corn. I will be growing both of them this year. Find a melon that does well in your location again. Now melons are a bit, in my opinion, of a challenge. You're gonna have to read up on them and make sure you're doing what's right, because I have grown them where they would be spongy on the inside because I forgot the water. Um, they you want to start them indoors if you're in an area where you don't have a long season. You want to start them indoors and allow them to get to a certain point of maturity, and then plant them out. They are, and a lot of people use this term, heavy feeders, heavy feeders, heavy feeders. All you got to do when it comes to plants like watermelon, make sure the food's there. Make sure that it's not called watermelon for just any reason. It's called watermelon because this plant primarily does well when it's watered properly because it's full of water. And then before you go to pick it, when you see that the tendril has turned all the way brown, that's closest to the fruit, you want to make absolutely certain that that tendril is completely brown. And then you don't want to water it a few days before you pick it because it's at its sweetest if you don't dilute it with water. But make sure that all your crops get proper watering. If you want to do great gardening this year, make sure you understand and get the watering thing down pat. Watering, as I said earlier, is not just about keeping your plants hydrated. It is the way that the plant eats. That water goes down through the soil. It takes down to the soil compost materials that the plant eats. And that's the way that works. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Let's see, the melons don't do well. I've had success in sandy soil. Oh, well, let me just say this to you. Sandy soil is what watermelons mostly prefer. You're right about that. Those type of melons prefer sandy soil. However, you can grow them in loamy soil. You can grow them in clay soil. It can be done because I've grown some of the sweetest melons, and my melons grew in clay soil. But there are certain things you'll do to grow watermelon in clay soil, and there are certain things you'll do to grow watermelon in sandy soil. Yeah, because there's no soil out there that is are as nutritional for plants as clay soil. Clay soils tend to hold on to the nutrients and also moisture. But plants that are not strong enough to push through the layers of clay, those plants tend not to always do well. But you can grow some of those plants here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Morning Garden Show. Thank you ever so much for stopping in. I appreciate each and every one of you. Oh, I had fun with this conversation. We got to do this again. Just make sure you subscribe to me. So if well, when I'm back online, I will answer your questions and try to do the best I can. Thanks. Always enjoy. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you for your information, sir. Thank you so much. All right.